Welcome to this presentation on the tools and tips for taking on the most common form of job interview, known as the behavioral interview. I'm your presenter, Christopher Perrello, the Director of Career Services at the School of Information Studies at Syracuse University. By the end of this presentation, you should have a solid understanding of what behavioral interviews entail, how to execute the STAR method in responding to behavioral interview questions, the importance of being memorable and exuding confidence, and lastly, the best practices for closing the behavioral interview. According to communication authors Stewart and Cash, quote, the most accurate predictor of future performance is past performance in a similar situation, end quote. These behaviors can be measured by asking a series of what we call behavioral interviewing questions. Furthermore, the purpose is to demonstrate your previous experience with action verbs and measurements of those actions. I encourage you all to familiarize yourself with the 30 most common behavioral interviewing questions, which can be found by doing a simple Google search online. Behavioral interviewing questions tend to focus on 6 main areas of competency. They are teamwork, time management, your communication skills, client-facing skills, adaptability, and personal and professional values. It is often the case that a hiring manager knows within the first 30 seconds if they want to hire the interviewing candidate. Therefore, let me state the obvious here. First impressions matter. You can overcome this by first dressing to appeal to your most critical audience. Dressing conservatively is typically your best bet for most job interviews. When you are selecting your interviewing attire, think about what nonverbal messages you're trying to send to the interview. I encourage you to think about wearable items that may be deemed as a detractor from your verbal message. These detractors can be piercings and tattoos. These can signal an informal professional style. It is always best to cover these up when interviewing. Hairstyles and facial hair should be well maintained and appropriate for the work environment you're interviewing for. Jewelry and fragrances can further distract from your interviewing answers. Interviewers may also be sensitive to certain types of perfumes or colognes, especially in small office spaces. Turn your cell phone off, or you can place it on airplane mode. You don't want your phone ringing or dinging during an interview. Take the headphones out, of course, unless it's a video interview through Skype. Then you'll want the headphones. Otherwise, remember to remove them. And also, ditch the gum. You don't want to be distracting and chewing gum. Arrive early, not too early. About 15 minutes is usually a good amount of time to show promptness. And before you arrive, you may want to look in the mirror one last time, just to be sure you don't have any issues. Always give a solid handshake to show confidence, and you want to introduce yourself with ease and vocal clarity. Be sure to practice your elevator pitch and how you introduce yourself to employers. You want to be memorable. The whole point of the behavioral interview is to positively stand out from a pool of candidates. Create an impact. That's how you can be memorable. It's important to keep in mind that an interview is more than just a series of questions and answers. It should be more of a conversation. This is your chance to articulate how you've demonstrated and made an impact within previous employers and previous positions. You can articulate these previous experiences by telling what we call pocket stories. Pocket stories are miniature narratives that help tout your skills, typically within a 2 to 4 minute time span. They help us narrate small stories that include a situation, a task, an action, and a result. I'll come back and touch upon this again in a few more slides. Communication 101, persuasion theory informs us that narratives sell. Think about your most favorite commercials on TV. They're telling a story. They're selling you the product. After all, interviews are more than just informative, they are indeed persuasive. The interviewee is trying to persuade the interviewer to sell their skills, their talents, and achievements to the interviewer. Exuding confidence. It's easier said than done, but the interviewee must exude and show confidence. How is this best performed? Practice, practice, practice. You want to research the company, the job role, and the skills and qualifications needed for you to prove your previous success. Review the list of the 30 most common behavioral interview questions and tailor each one of those answers to the position you are applying for. And again, practice makes perfect. Try practicing and articulating the responses in a mirror or on a recordable smartphone app to rehearse and review areas for improvement. Eye contact is incredibly important. This shows how you can help build rapport and trust with the interviewer. Judicious eye contact is a great nonverbal cue to practice. Keep in mind that strong body posture is imperative to help signal this confidence. You'll want to sit up straight, keep your chin front and up, and project a sense of stage presence. I would recommend keeping your hand gestures to a minimum and refrain from crossing your arms. You don't want to look like you're closing yourself off from the interviewing team. Lastly, and this is an easy one, smile. You don't want to look like you're in pain or hating the experience of the interview, no matter how nervous or anxious you are. Smiling will further help project confidence and help ease and comfort everyone in the room. You will want to make sure that you have pocket stories to help sell the variety of behavioral interviewing questions that could possibly be asked. Know the following areas. Have strengths prepared. For instance, what are three strengths that you possess? That also means have weaknesses prepared. What are one or two areas that you could actually use improvement in? Be genuine, be honest here. And yes, they may even ask about a time when you failed at something. If that's the case, here they are measuring resiliency. When was a time that you actually fell, right? Picked yourself up, dust yourself off, and moved on professionally? Have pocket stories about accomplishments and achievements and how you actually got to those achievements. Have stories prepared for key decisions you've made, either independently or when you've had to make a decision on a team. What role did you play in making that decision? What are your professional interests? What are professional goals you have? Be prepared to have answers for where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What about 10 years? Also, leadership. How have you demonstrated leadership in a previous job role or previous experience? The STAR method is an acronym that can systematically help the interviewee formulate their pocket story for a complete and impactful response to the behavioral interview in question. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. When we think of the situation, the interviewee should talk about the company, the organization, the location, maybe the dates employed, the job title, and certainly the job role. The interviewee then can transition into task. What were you asked to do? Action will allow the interviewee to address how they went about performing the task. Here, the interviewee should provide power action verbs that help demonstrate how the task was actually completed. The result is the outcome. Why did you do it? How did you benefit the company? What was the purpose? Here you may want to provide a measurement or metric to demonstrate that success. What is the interviewing team looking for? Well, The interviewer wants to know whether you've actually had the experiences that prove you can handle this new position and this new job role. They also may seek to understand how you think and look into how you may make decisions in the future. From the recruiter's perspective, the standard star structure makes it much easier for an interviewer to compare all job candidates' responses. Towards the end of your interview, the recruiter will most likely ask if you have any questions for them. When asked questions, ask questions. This helps show interest in the job title or role that you're going to be interviewing for. This is also a wonderful time to showcase your listening skills. Keep in mind that you're still being evaluated by the interviewer. I would always suggest asking safe questions. These are questions that will help the interviewee get a feel for the culture of the company, perhaps professional development opportunities, or even the performance review measurements that will be taking place if you get the job. I highly suggest that you avoid what I call controversial questions. These may be regard to paid time off, sick time, and even other fringe benefits. This is not the time to be asking for free parking. Closing the interview. Use the closing of the interview to leave a lasting impression by being memorable. You may want to ask about next steps in the hiring process. You want to remain positive and confident. I would suggest asking for business cards or writing down names. That way, you can send out thank you cards. Yes, I said thank you cards. I would suggest sending out a thank you email to the interviewers within 12 hours and sending a handwritten note through snail mail within 24 hours. It is so important to show your courtesy and respect for the interviewer providing time out of their busy day to interview you. Top off your interview with a solid handshake and a warm goodbye. And always, always, always be thankful of their time. That concludes our presentation on behavioral interviewing strategies. You can visit the iSchool Virtual Career Center at 2SU to access this recording and other webinars and other resources. You may also give the Career Service team a call or email them for things like resume reviews and other interviewing tips and strategies. Until next time, I'm Christopher Perrello.